Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Kurt on Cougs. Today's video is just kind of a little special one for a couple different reasons. For one, BYU women's soccer will be playing I believe starting in just 9 minutes here against the Santa Clara Broncos in the first round of the tournament, and that's a game that 7 seed BYU is hosting at Southfield. So a lot of excitement there for that, as well as I was planning on doing this earlier in the week. Things got kind of crazy, but also just going to be reacting to the most recent college football playoff polls and talk more about BYU's road to the postseason. Big 12 championship game, bowl games, potentially college football playoffs. So yeah, we'll dive right in. First of all, talking about the event of the night, which most definitely has to be BYU women's soccer taking on Santa Clara. Big game for the Cougs. For one thing, I think it's just really exciting that they were able to make the tournament this year. Definitely a rebuilding year, but making it as a seeded team, getting to host in the first round is super awesome. Super excited to see what happens there. And the Cougars come in. They're led in scoring by Fryer with 11. I believe that's Allie Fryer, and Mackenzie Vance with 9. So those are your two leading scorers for the Cougs coming in. At least from what I've heard, both should be available for this game, so that's a good sign. And so, of course, BYU favored in this one, but this is a team that they have some history with. BYU versus Santa Clara has, in a way, was a big rivalry back in the days of the West Coast Conference. Kind of funny to say the days of the West Coast Conference. I guess that makes it sound like it was a while ago. Even though it was just a couple years ago. But yeah, definitely two teams that are, at least the coaches are very familiar with each other. And so, yeah, big opportunity for the Cougs here to advance. And kind of just looking at some stats surrounding this game, the type of games BYU has played so far this season have been low scoring and close. Just for instance of that, they have averaged 1.75 goals per game. So pretty solid there. And they have averaged allowing 1.35 goals against them. And so, yeah, probably expecting another game like that. Santa Clara plays very physical, very tough. And so, yeah, should be an exciting matchup. Ultimately, though, I feel like this BYU team, they are hitting their stride at just the right time. And I think they roll in this one, go on to the second round. Let's go Cougs. So, yeah, there's that. Looking around at some other BYU sporting events, you got BYU men's and women's cross country earlier today punched their ticket for a spot in the NCAA championships. So very exciting for both those teams. Both of them come in ranked number 1. I think I heard somewhere that they would be only the 5th team ever to have both teams win the national championship if they are able to both defend their number 1 rankings next week. So yeah, big race, and very exciting to see what they do with that. BYU women's volleyball last night beat UCF 3-1, and they will be playing against Houston tomorrow. And so yeah, games go on for them as well. They're having a pretty decent season. I believe they're ranked number 24 right now. And so, yeah, just got to keep on winning. And, yeah, I believe that's another team that can make a big run in the tournament. Both women's volleyball and women's soccer, in my opinion, could have a big impact this year in the tournament, which is really exciting. Okay, so now moving. BYU men's and women's basketball both advanced to 3-0 earlier this week, with the men beating Queens and the women beating Colorado State. And both teams will be playing, funny enough, Idaho schools tomorrow. The men are playing against the Vandals of Idaho University, while the women will be playing against the Idaho State Bengals. And so, yeah, two exciting games there. In my opinion, I think it's pretty likely both teams advance to 4-0. So, yeah, should be good. Now, quick reaction to the CFP poll, kind of what it means for BYU. And I want to be doing this every week till the end of the season. I'll have to see what happens. My schedule is a little busy. But yeah, overall, I feel like this week was pretty fair. I feel like last week BYU was underrated at number 9. This week coming in at number 6, just behind Indiana, just ahead of Tennessee. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like the two teams should be switched. I would be okay with BYU being behind Tennessee ahead of Indiana, but it is the way that it is. And so, yeah, and I hope to dive deeper in future weeks, but at least kind of a few notes from what I took from this. Teams that BYU needs to look out for, teams that we hope drop below BYU or teams that could jump BYU. Because, of course, optimal situation, BYU goes undefeated all the way to the conference title game, wins that thing, gets that first round bye. But there is always, a chance, a pretty decent-sized chance. I don't know. There's a good chance, they're able to do that, but there's also a pretty good chance that they fall short of the conference championship, which, of course, saying falling short of the conference championship almost seems like underselling it. At the end of the day, just even the position BYU is in right now is remarkable. Projected to win only 4.5 coming into the year. You're already at 9. Truly already a huge, incredible, pleasant surprise. Just amazing. But yeah, of course, looking forward. And, first things first, of course, though, I'm looking at Big 12 standings, because if BYU is going to make the playoffs, in my opinion, first and foremost, they need to at least make it to the conference title game. And so looking at some games there, you got Colorado right behind BYU with 1 loss, and you have 4 teams who all have 2 losses. That will be cut down to 3 this Saturday because 2 of those teams are playing each other. You got Arizona State taking on K-State. Personally, I think that one other of those teams drops out. Okay, wait, so those 4 teams, by the way, that are currently all at 2 losses currently are Kansas State, Iowa State, West Virginia, and Arizona State. And so, so in my opinion, I think Kansas State Wildcats roll on Saturday. BYU, of course, has the tiebreaker over them. That's why I'm cheering for them a lot towards the end of the season. Both improves BYU's resume, and if they were to be tied with BYU at the end of the season, most likely, for sure the Cougars would have the tiebreaker there. And so, and then you got, so I think they win. I think West Virginia, they are playing Baylor on Saturday. I think this Baylor team's looking better and better, and I think they win that game. And so I think that cuts it down to 2, just Iowa State and Kansas State. Iowa State, of course, reeling after a loss to Kansas last week, BYU's upcoming opponent. And so I think they bounce back, though. They're playing against Cincinnati, so I think they win that one. And overall, at this point for BYU, they can afford to lose a game and they'll still make it in. Even losing 2 games, there's a pretty good shot they make it. In my opinion, a win over Kansas on Saturday, which I feel like is very likely. I feel like this BYU team, they're locked in, they're ready. Kansas is a team that has shown a lot of potential, but I don't think they pull out this upset. I think the Cougs win it. I guess a little early prediction for tomorrow. I'll elaborate more then. But overall, I'm very confident in BYU's abilities to make the Big 12 title game. Now, if they lose tomorrow, then things get a little more sketchy, and we're going to be following that a little more closely. Now, looking back at the CFP poll real quick, at some teams that could potentially jump BYU, be in there, be competing with them for a playoff spot. One big one I see is Notre Dame. They don't have a lot of challenging games towards the end of the season. They do have to play on the road at USC, as well as against Army. I believe that's a home game for them, for Notre Dame, that is. So overall, I think Notre Dame should win out, but if they take a loss, I think they're out for sure. You could definitely see some Big Ten and SEC schools making it in with 2 losses, but a Notre Dame team with a loss against NIU is one of those 2. I don't think they're making it in. And then another, probably this week's biggest game that will determine a lot for the playoffs is Tennessee taking on Georgia. That's number 7 Vols taking on number 12 Bulldogs. Personally, for me in that game, I would cheer for Tennessee, since Georgia is, they're right on the edge. A loss here puts them at 3 losses, basically kills their playoff hopes, and so one less team for BYU to compete with, so I'll be cheering for the Vols this weekend. A couple other games that are looming pretty large at this point, just as we look towards the end of the season, are Texas versus Texas A&M. Texas currently within the playoff picture at number 3. Texas A&M currently on the outside looking in. That one could be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, I think Texas will win until then, so I think Texas will be in. Texas A&M playing for a chance to give themselves a spot in the playoffs. And so, that one will be big. And then also Indiana versus Ohio State, of course. Ohio State at number 2, Indiana at number 5. Indiana, one of only 4 unbeaten teams left. So that one should be very interesting to see. And yeah, the winner of that game might just seal themselves a spot in the college football playoffs. Although the team that loses still has a very good chance to make it as well. Good news for BYU is that, at least from what I've seen of the rest of SMU's schedule, I think they should win out. So that'll give BYU 2 quality top 25 wins over Kansas State, SMU. So really good for the resume there. Yeah, and then also another team that I'm watching towards the end of the season is Miami. Just because if they take another loss, in my opinion, that would be very good for BYU, because there is a chance that, if there aren't SEC or ACC schools beating BYU out for a spot in the playoffs, there still is a potential of the second place ACC team. I don't know. That's just a situation that worries me. If BYU were to take a loss, how would the committee compare them to a 2-loss? Well, I guess in that case, 2-loss Miami team. If we're looking at looking at a at-large bid, and so I think BYU should be ahead in that case. But who knows? Maybe there might be some bias just since Miami has Cam Ward, Heisman candidate over there. And so, however, I feel like if Miami takes a loss, a couple losses even, in that case, I feel like winner of Miami SMU goes to the playoffs. The other team stays home. One less team to compete against. And so, yeah. So those are just some teams to watch. Of course, I'll try to provide more of an update next week. But yeah, I believe the BYU women's soccer game just started against SMU. So yeah, go Cougs. And if I got time tonight, I'll probably try to make a reaction to that game. Big game, NCAA tournament time. Let's go Cougs, win that match.